Hi and welcome everyone, it's Jennifer McGuire. I'm back as promised to share with you 4 cards that I created using a layered die cut technique. I showed a peek at these cards in yesterday's video. I will link to that video here if you want to check it out. And I promised I'd come back and share the technique. So this technique takes any die, especially those that are intricate with lots of pieces, and we layer up the pieces to get lots of texture and lots of dimension. It's definitely worth the effort, and I have a few different ways of doing this technique, so be sure to stick around for all of the examples. I'm starting with this technique with all of these little green leaves layered up. So I'm using the new Simon Says Stamp corbel wreath die, and I'm going to die cut it from 3 or 4 pieces of green cardstock. Now after I run it through my die cut machine, I'm going to carefully remove the die so that all the little pieces stay in the negative space. That's really helpful for this technique. If you lose a few pieces, that's okay. Just set those aside and we'll add them later. So I'm going to do the same thing from 3 or 4 pieces of cardstock. So now we're going to glue these little pieces onto my card. So I flipped over one piece and I'm putting some strong liquid adhesive on the back of each of the leaves. I'm not minding those tiny little dots, I'm just using the leaves, and this really doesn't take long once you get going. You could use any kind of little glue pen for this. I decided to use multi-medium with this little fine tip applicator. Now I'm going to lay this onto a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch white cardstock towards the top, and I'm going to press this down. So what's happening is all those little leaves are going to be adhered to the white cardstock, but the negative space and the tiny little dots will just fall off. So now I'm going to carefully peel away the negative space. I use a craft knife to press those leaves down so they don't come off with the negative space. And we have all the leaves perfectly positioned. Any leaves that fell out, we can just go ahead and add back in. Now I'm going to do the same thing again right on top. Now notice I took a few leaves off. That's just going to help me line up the negative space, which you'll see in a moment. I put adhesive on the back of each of the leaves. Now we can line up those open leaf spots with the leaves that are already glued to the paper, and we can press down once again. So what we've done here is we've layered up 2 layers of leaves. And now I can go in and glue any that I didn't attach when I put the whole piece down. So we have 2 layers of green leaves here. Now before you remove the negative space, always make sure it's dried completely. If you do it too soon, it'll just pull up the leaves, so be sure to give it some time to dry. After it's dried, I can again remove the negative space, and now we have a wreath of leaves that is 2 leaves thick. So I'm going to repeat this a 3rd time. So I have another 3rd die cut here. Put adhesive on the back of each of the leaves, just the leaves only, lining it back up and pressing this down. So now we have white cardstock with 3 layers of leaves there. Gives huge dimension. You could do 1 layer, you could do 2 layers, but 3 or 4 really makes a huge difference. This is pretty much the only thing we're doing on this card that takes up time, so it's definitely worth it. Now I'm using some strong liquid adhesive to add some Lucy's Cards Rainbow Jewels, and I thought I'd do kind of a rainbow arrangement, gluing them into some of the open spaces between the leaves. Now for the thanks die cut, I'm going to show you how I did that towards the end of this video when we wrap all the cards up. And check out that beautiful dimension you get with this technique. It really makes a big difference to layer up several leaves together, and by using the negative space, it really doesn't take that long at all. Next, I have a variation of this technique where we get a rainbow of colors. Instead of all the pieces being one color, we're going to have this rainbow effect. For this one, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Heart Sprinkle Wreath. Sorry, that's a mouthful. I die cut it from white cardstock, and I'm temporarily adhering it to another piece of white cardstock that's solid. Now I die cut this wreath from a bunch of pieces of white cardstock, 4 different pieces, so I have a bunch of little hearts and dots that you see over there on the right. I'm using some strong liquid adhesive and filling in the opening of the hearts and the large dots. I'm completely ignoring the small dots. I'm not going to bother with those. So now, just like a puzzle, I'm popping those hearts and large dots into their opening. So I just fill in the heart and large dot openings. Sometimes I use my fingers, sometimes I use the point of a craft knife to kind of pick it up, and sometimes I use a jewel picker. Now this time, I want to add color to these. So any of the little heart and dot pieces that I added in, I'm coloring with a variety of colors of markers. You could use any markers for this, but I chose Copic markers. Now it doesn't matter that I'm getting outside of the lines, because remember, the negative space is there just temporarily. The card below that is protected, so it won't get any of the scribbles on it. So I'm just coloring the hearts and dots. Now this really doesn't take that long, and the reason I color in between each layer is it makes it very solid, which you'll see a little bit later. So after I've colored all these, I'm going to glue some more hearts and dots right on top of this. You could stop at one layer if you wanted to save time, but if you really want that dimension, you want to glue up 3 or 4 layers. Now, unlike last time, I'm not going to bring another negative space over this. I'm just going to glue right on top. Since I'm not layering up each piece, each of those little dots, I'm just going to go ahead and do each one individually. So I'm stacking up the hearts and the larger dots, and I just do one at a time. I also wanted to show you, if you don't have a strong liquid adhesive with a fine tip, you could also use a quickie glue pen or any other kind of glue pen to glue each of these on. So I'm just picking up the hearts and popping them right on top of the ones that we just colored. So now you can see those white hearts are there on top of the ones we colored, and now I'm going to color them again. The reason I color these each time is so that the sides of these die cuts have color to them, so that when we take the negative space off and we have all of our layers, the hearts will have color on the top and the sides. If you want to save time, you could just color the top layer, but I really think it makes a big difference in the final result. Remember, this is really the only time-intensive part of this card, so it's good to just go ahead and do it right. Okay, so after I stacked up 3 layers like that and colored each layer, I let it dry for a long time, and then I just started to remove the negative space. Again, you want to be careful to make sure that you keep the little pieces on your card. Craft knife is helpful for just kind of pressing those down. Then you can peel off the negative space and check it out. You have those layered hearts and larger dots, nice and thick on there. You don't have any marker where you don't want it, and it's a perfect layout. Now remember how there were tiny little dots that I didn't want to fuss with? Well, I'm filling in those spaces with tiny drops of white Nuvo drops. These have a little bit of dimension to it. It's like glossy accent but white. And I'm putting tiny little drops of different sizes in the little openings. I'm then using my shimmer pen to add shimmer to the little die cut colored pieces that we layered. And then I'm putting a coat of glossy accents on that. That really makes these hearts that we colored really pop up, gives it lots of dimension, sparkle, and shine. And in this photo, you can see those die cut hearts with the shine on it. And you can see the little white dots that we filled in between. That saved me a lot of time, and I really like the results. And again, we'll finish this card up at the end of the video. First, I wanted to show you a third example. This one has a lot less die cut pieces, so it does save some time, but I added some variation to it. So you can see the dimension that you get on these pieces. I just love it. Okay, so I am using the new Simon Says Stamp Floral Cluster Collage die. And I die cut that from a piece of white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm temporarily taping it onto another piece of white cardstock that is solid. I die cut that border image from 4 different pieces of white cardstock, so I have a bunch of heart petals here. Now I'm going to fill in the open spaces with some liquid adhesive and pop the matching heart pieces in their place. This is very easy. You're just doing like a die cut inlay technique here. But remember that negative space isn't glued to the back of the card. So I'm going to do this for all of the pieces, filling in all of the petals. Once I have all of the petals in, we can add our color. Now I could die cut colored pieces of cardstock, but I'd have to do it from a bunch of different pieces since they're all these different sizes. So coloring really does save time over die cutting from a bunch of pieces of colored cardstock. So I'm quickly putting a layer of colored ink over it. And now it's time to layer these up. Now on this card, I didn't layer each flower up with the same number of layers. I wanted some layers to stand taller and some layers to stand flatter or more flush with the card. So I layered the pink up with 3 layers, the orange up with 4, and the yellow I only did 1. So since this yellow is done here, I'm adding a little darkness towards the center of the flower with a darker color marker. And then I can go ahead and layer up the rest of my flowers with more dimension. Again, that yellow is just going to be one thick. After I put in another layer, I can add some more color and continue to do as many layers as I want for each flower. For the pink, I did 3 layers. Orange, I did 4. Yellow, I did 1. Green, I did 3. And blue, I did 2. Now you could save time by just doing 1 layer for each, but it really is amazing how big of a difference it makes by varying how thick these are. Each time I do add that color in between each layer so that I can get the color throughout that whole layered piece. Once these have dried for quite some time, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the negative space carefully and check out that dimension. You can see how some flowers stand up more than others. Really is worth the time that it took to do this. Now to really make each of these pieces stand out, I'm using a shimmer pen over it. My Wink of Stella ran out, so I moved on to my Spectrum Noir, and I added glossy accents over that. And look at the shine. It looks like a store-bought embellishment. We'll finish that card off again at the end of the video. Now I have one more example where I use the negative space of a die cut kind of like a template for laying out my embellishments. I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Heart Sprinkled Trail die. I die cut it from some white cardstock to use kind of as a template, and I'm temporarily taping it to a piece of black cardstock, and that black cardstock is what my project will be on. Now on this one, I'm only layering up the hearts. There's a few hearts here, so I'm putting glue in the openings of the hearts only, and I'm going to pop in the little hearts that fit in place. Once I have the hearts popped in, I'm going to add color over it. Now see all those tiny little dots? I'm completely ignoring that for this, only doing the hearts. So now it's time to add my layer of color over this, and then once I have the first layer color, I can glue on the next layer of all these hearts. And I'm going to do 3 or 4 hearts thick so that they have lots of nice dimension. Now once I have all those colored hearts glued in place, before I remove that negative space, I'm going to use those tiny little dot openings kind of as a template for where I'm going to put a bunch of jewels. So I have a white gel pen, and I'm just going to draw a dot in each of those openings. Those little dots will tell me where I can put some gems to kind of have the look that this die offers. So now I can remove that negative space, and I have a bunch of little white dots. On those white dots, I'm going to add some gems. I got carried away and I did a bunch. You don't have to do all of those white dots. You could skip some of those holes, but I am in love with these Lucy Cards rainbow jewels, and I wanted to use a lot on this card. So I'm going to kind of go from rainbow order from left to right. You can buy a variety pack like you see there on the bottom left, or they now sell packs of just solid colors, which you can see up there on the top. Now that little variety pack, the rainbow jewel pack, is what I'm actually going to be using today because it has all the colors I need in it. So I'm putting a dot of strong adhesive on each of those little white dots that I put with my white pen. And I'm adding a gem over each of the white dots. So basically, I used the negative space of that heart trail die cut to plan out where all my gems are going to go. Then I put some shimmer pen and glossy accents on the die cut pieces, and you have lots of shine. I wish you could see this in real life. It's definitely eye-catching. Okay, so now that I've showed you 4 different examples of layering up intricate die cuts for dimension, let me show you how I pulled these together into a card. For each of the cards, I used the new Simon Says Stamp Script Thanks die set. Now this die set comes with the intricate thanks word itself and the shadow die, so you could use them together or alone. I die cut the thanks a couple times and glued them stacked onto a white shadow die cut. Look how beautiful that looks. I love the size and style of this. And I glued that onto each of these cards. Now for the black, I did skip the shadow. I felt like only just a few layered white thanks die cuts is all it needed. So I put some strong adhesive on the back of that and glued it right onto the card. Now I did trim the black piece down a little bit from the top and the bottom and glued it to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch top folding white note card. And then I want to put something heavy on that while it dries. Now for the other cards, I did trim some thin pieces of foam tape to put on the back of the Thanks die cut so that it had dimension also, just like all the little die cut pieces that we've already glued down. So I'm going to go ahead and add that towards the center of both of the wreaths. And then I'll also add one onto the floral heart collage piece too. Now for the 3 white panel cards, I did trim those down a little bit and added them to black note cards. So let's take a look at all of these cards as they're finished and dried. Here we have the first one we created with the layered leaves. Really like that dimension with the rainbow of gems in between. We have the script Thanks die cut in the center that I covered with some shimmer pen and some glossy accents for lots of shine. Now again, this is on a black note card, so I cut a piece of white cardstock to fit on the inside for me to write my message. And I also stamped a little sentiment from the Simon Says stamp set that you see here on the left. And I have a Simon Says stamp metallic envelope that I stamped from Across the Miles to Bring You Smiles from this Simon Says stamp set on the right. And that matches perfectly. I like that the metallic envelope has the shine that goes along with the card. Now here is the heart wreath. You can see the little white Nouveau drops in between. I also added some shimmer and glossy accents to the thanks on this one. And again, I put a white cardstock piece on the inside of the card where I stamped a little sentiment, and I have my matching envelope. Here is the card with the large flowers. Now after the glossy accents on those flowers dried, I glued a cluster of those Lucy's Cards jewels in the center of each of the flowers, which really made a huge difference on this card. You can see how much shine and dimension these have. And remember, since each flower has a different number of layers, they each stand up differently and the variation's really fun. I glued this white panel to a black note card. In the inside, once again, I have a piece of white cardstock to write my message on, and I stamped that sentiment in the inside and have a matching envelope. Here is the final card. Here are the little gemstones and die cuts on black cardstock. I wish this showed up better in the video. It was a kind of a weird day outside with the sun, but this has a lot of shine to it. That's really fun and unique. And again, I stamped the sentiment in the inside of the card, and I have a matching metallic envelope from Simon Says stamp. So there you have it, several ways that you can layer up your intricate die cut pieces to create lots of dimension on your card. It's really fun to do. I hope you give it a try. If you're interested in these supplies, they are, as always, linked below in my YouTube description. You can also go to my blog where I'll have much more information for you, including more photos. In the middle are 2 other videos that use similar dies and might inspire you for other ideas. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll come back soon and have a great week.